Major Glenn Ignazio joining us now, retired Air Force Special Operations Commander. Good to see you, Glenn. You put any odds on this, or what is the significance of Putin even putting a story like this out?
Well, in all honesty, as we've talked about it for ages here, is I believe that is actually one of the best things to say, hey, we can get to some kind of negotiation. And that really needs to happen. We haven't seen the lines move that much until recently, where Russia's pushed significantly into Kharkiv. But as far as what the lines have been, they're fairly well established for many months now. I hate to say it, I don't see any capability for Ukraine to completely push Russia out. And I believe that the lines that are established right now are pretty much the way they're going to be. So I think it's good to actually get to this some kind of treaty and ceasefire.
All right, let me talk about that with you a little bit. Of course, you know, we go to our maps here on the tablet because we have the current front lines that are drawn, and they're all outlined in red. So if you just take a line across here, that would be, you know, Ukraine, where they're still controlling their territory. But you're basically saying to me, Glenn, that if you're Ukraine, best case is you're going to take all of this land in here and say, all right, that's yours, Russia?
I hate to say it, I wouldn't want Ukraine to lose anything, but in all honesty, these lines really haven't moved much in the last 6 to 12 months. And my team on the ground, I just talked to a few hours ago, they're saying exactly that. They feel that Kharkiv is a push to sort of draw some of the Ukrainian forces north, but that whole line down into the south, Donetsk and everything, is where Russia's not going to pull out, and they're going to hold the line as best as possible. So as much as I would hate to say and give anything to Russia, right, I believe those are really going to be the tenets of stopping this war. And that's hard for Zelensky to give up. And Putin has to show some type of win inside of Russia, regardless politically. That's really the only balance, but that doesn't mean that everybody's going to accept those terms.
Really hard for Zelensky to give up. Let's put up the quote from his interview with the New York Times. I'm sure you saw that. We talked about it on the show earlier this week. Asked about potential ceasefire negotiations. He called for diplomacy that avoids direct talks with Russia, but rallies nations behind Ukraine's positions for an eventual peace settlement. Reaction to that, and also maybe some context when you say colleagues on the ground about the work you're involved with there that you can tell us about in Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's negotiations and discussions in Switzerland here in the next coming days here. And Zelensky and other nations are there that are going to basically look to end this type of war. But the interesting part is the bigger party, which is Russia, is not invited right now. And that's really not really that's a no game changer. I mean, Russia has to be part of this negotiation. So they're looking for allies to pressure Russia to pull back. I don't think that's going to happen. They got to be part of it. As far as what's going on the ground, so my teammates, we've established evacuation networks from Odessa, Mykolaiv, and other parts of the country to get civilians in bad places out. And we've sustained that, and the team is there keeping that going as we speak right now.
And you've noticed changes. I mean, you've been doing it or been involved in it on and off right from the beginning of the war. And the reason I wanted to ask you to give context to that is I wanted you to explain what you've seen change, which led to your first comments today.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've seen is a huge push and a huge aggression from Russia into Kharkiv, and Ukraine is trying to do as much as they can, but they've lost some significant ground. So as we see that happening further to the north, but the biggest focus for Russia is that southern area of Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and others. That's one of the areas they really want. So is that a feint as far as trying to pull Ukraine forces north? That's what they believe. But at the same time, they're seeing incredibly intense operations from Russia. Remember, Russia will always have more people. So if the weapons balance out between the West, giving to Ukraine and everything, that will be the thing. And that's what they're seeing is a big push from Russia right now.
And what about this latest round? You know, the funding finally got passed, but now the Defense Department announcing another round of, you know, some more artillery and the like, which I mentioned. Too little, too late, or?
Yeah, that's literally that term is what came out of my friend a couple hours ago. Is a little too late. Yeah, literally perfect quote. And it's one of those things that'll hold the defensive nature of where Ukraine is. And like I said, I'm completely behind Ukraine, so I want to know that people know that. But it really feels like it's too little, too late. So they can hold defensively, but offensively, as far as pushing Russia back, seems to be an uphill battle. I hate to say it, but that's the situation we're dealing with right now.
Final thing, then, Glenn, what would have to happen for Zelensky to actually give in on this? I just can't see it happening, but maybe you feel differently.
No, I agree with you. Zelensky, I don't see him giving into this as well because he's losing part of his country significantly. Boy, where does this come out to balance out to show a win for Zelensky and a win for Putin? Putin needs to have that territory in Ukraine. Zelensky won't give it up. So how do you find middle ground? Honestly, to stop the killing of both sides is probably the common ground between the two. Where do they see the lines drawn between that they agree upon? That's the challenge. And honestly, we'll know what comes out of the negotiations if and when they occur. But that's what we're facing.
Okay. We appreciate your analysis as always. I know you'll keep us up to date on yourself and your colleagues and what you guys are learning on the ground. It's important to the discussion. Thanks, Glenn Ignazio.